I went to a UFC live event. It was the card in Toronto, Sean Strickland versus Duplessis. And the big question is it worth it to actually go to a live event? Now, I wanna say I paid for me and my girlfriend to go. I think it was $1,044 per ticket to be exact. And we had pretty good seats, guys. So we were probably, I think it was row 18, I wanna say, or something like that on the lower level. So pretty damn good seats. Now, I'll tell you about my experience. So we got in there and I was expecting to have the time of my life. I was like, this is a UFC event, ton of money for tickets. I'm like, this is gonna be fantastic. I've even heard Dana White in podcasts talking about how incredible UFC events are in person and how they're the best ever and they're so much better than football and basketball and they're the best live events to ever be at. So that's what I was expecting. Now, when the fight started, I quickly realized, I was like, this is not what I was expecting at all, guys. So the answer to the question is, I think absolutely not. It is not worth it. But let me explain to you why, so you really understand, because I've been to a lot of other live events. I'm gonna tell you which ones are the best, which ones you shouldn't go to. The UFC is the worst sporting live event I've ever been to. And even being 18 rows in, I found that the problem is the octagon is so small, guys. The octagon is so small. Just imagine how small the octagon is compared to an NBA basketball court or an NHL hockey rink. They have events in the same stadiums. UFC, NBA, NHL, same stadiums. But the UFC octagon is so small that even at row 18, I literally was like had to squint my eyes to even see these guys. It was unbelievable. So I found myself constantly looking up at the big screen on top of the octagon to see what's going on, because you can't see, like if somebody gets cut or starts bleeding, you really can't tell like where the cut is or where they start bleeding. Somebody gets leg kicked, you can't really tell how much bruising there is. You can't see anything. Really, it's because the octagon is so small. I can't even imagine what the experience would be like if you're sitting in the upper deck. You would literally need binoculars to see these guys. The entire time you'd be looking at the big screen. You can't watch the octagon, it's too small. We were there for, I wanna say 6 or 7 hours, because we watched from the early prelims all the way through. And just the whole time, I was just thinking like, this thing is moving so slowly. We don't realize this when we're at home, but there's literally like 15 to 20 minutes between every single fight, guys. When you're at the stadium, at the arena, it's so brutal how slow it moves. It's like when you think about a hockey intermission in the NHL, it's 20 minutes. Now think about an NHL intermission between every single fight, guys. There was like 12 intermissions during the UFC live event. And each time there was intermission, it's like, it's gonna be like 20 minutes and they have no entertainment during that time. It's just like, I don't know, people are just doing nothing. They're just sitting there, just waiting until the next fight starts. We're literally doing nothing, absolutely nothing. It's like, okay, I guess let me just go to the concessions again and see what's going on. You know what I mean? So yeah, overall, I would say it was not worth it at all. The only way I would ever go to another UFC live event is maybe if I'm sitting, I would probably go if I'm sitting, it has to be like the first 5 rows, honestly. I don't think you can go further than that. The first 4 or 5 rows, you have to be inside the action to actually see what the hell's going on. If you're like, once you start getting to like row 15, 20, 25, 30, upper deck, you're finished. Forget about it. You would much rather watch it at home, I guarantee you. If I could go back, let's say in the future event, if somebody gave me like free tickets, row 20, honestly, I'd rather watch it on TV. I'm being dead honest. I would rather watch it on TV, because on TV, you get to see the small little cuts on the people's faces. You get to see the bruises on them, you know, the body bruises. You get to see everything on TV because the camera is literally inside the octagon. That's the UFC live event for you. I definitely do not recommend you go. If you want to try it, go ahead. But I'm just telling you, if you're not row 4 or 5 or better, even if you are row 4 or 5, I can't even guarantee that's a great experience. I'm just assuming it's probably better. But row 18, 19, 20, it's 21, or anything upper deck, forget about it. Do not do it. And compared to like an NHL game or an NBA game, when you go to an NBA game or an NHL game and you have good seats, like lower level, like row 15, row 20, something like that, you are getting a solid view. You are getting an amazing, entertaining experience. You know, for me, when I go to NBA games and NHL games here in Toronto, it's fantastic, guys. The entertainment is fantastic. Even like while they go to commercials, they always entertain you with certain things. There's a scoreboard. There's always like something, some form of entertainment. It's a real event. You know what I mean? It's really properly done. So for me, the best event to be at, number 1, NBA. NBA is the best event to be at. A very close second, NHL hockey. Very close second. I've been to both here many times. I've been to like, I want to say like 8 basketball games, but only a couple of hockey games here, 2 I think. And great seats each time. Every time I go, I get the middle row between the middle row, meaning like the center of the NBA arena or the center of the NHL arena, and about row 10 to 20 range, somewhere around there. So I'm trying to get really good seats every time, and it's fantastic every single time. I've never been disappointed at an NBA game or an NHL game. They're fantastic. The UFC event, terrible. I'm sorry to say it, you know, terrible. I love the UFC. I'm the first guy, I'm a big UFC fanboy, trust me. I watch everything. I watch all the pay-per-views. I watch all the non-pay-per-views. I love watching it on TV. The broadcasting, the commentating is amazing. It's also that, right? When you're in a live event, you don't watch, you can't hear the commentating for UFC. It's like, it's just silence. And then when somebody punches, the crowd kind of roars, but like you don't even know what's going on. You got to look at the big screen because the fighters are so small, they're so far away, right? So think about that. It makes sense. The octagon is so small, guys. It's so small. It's like, I want to say like 10 to 15% the size of like an NBA arena or an NHL arena. So it's like this tiny little thing, and it's just everyone is just so far. Unless you're like the 3rd or 4th or 5th row, you're just so far you can't see anything. Don't do it. If you're thinking about going to a UFC live event, I'm sorry, don't do it. Forget about it. Go to an NBA game, go to an NHL game. They're way cheaper. And the reason why the UFC tickets are so expensive is because they only come, like, let's say for example in Toronto, they only come here once every like 3 or 4 years. So they get to jack up the prices, right? NHL, NBA, you get 41 games per year each. So they can't jack up the prices too high. So it's a reasonable price and you're getting excellent entertainment. UFC, unreasonable price and not so good entertainment. Lots of downtime. You can't see. If you still want to go have an experience, let me know how it goes. But not for me, not for me. All right, guys, take care, and I'll see you guys in the next video.